So I have to admit, I was never really a fan of the Dr. Phil show. Never. I tried watching it a few times back in the day, but it was always about somebody's love life was messed up or whose neighbor was sleeping with this one's neighbor. And it was about a lot of nonsense as far as I was concerned. But today, these days, Dr. Phil is becoming quite the talk show. Lately, he's been having guests on talking about the controversies we're facing today, like gender identity or racial bias, basically, overall, woke people. Well, Friday, he did a show. It was about defund the police movement, and there was this activist. His name was Michael Smith, I believe. And he was explaining to Dr. Phil why he believes that police aren't needed and what needs to be done. And Phil wasn't having it. And Phil let him have it. And quite frankly, it's going to make me want to watch Dr. Phil even more because I'm hoping he has more episodes like this to get people to see what's really happening here. So take a look at this clip.
Your question is presuming is a world as it exists currently, right? And so when I say, I don't believe there's a need for police, what I'm saying is that there has been so little investment in creating the conditions under which police would not be necessary. And that is the issue. That is the holistic issue. And people are creations of the society in which they live in. And if you are a society that has such massive inequality, and you are a society that is based on racial and gendered hierarchies, and you are a society that deprives people of the resources that they need to live, talking about housing, clean water, food, all of these things that are part of an equitable society. You're talking about people that will do desperate things in order to survive. And so you're not solving anything by arresting those people. You're not solving anything by shooting and killing those people.
I agree with you 100% on society's failures about how that person became a criminal. My point is we also live in the here and now. And if someone invades my home and has my wife held hostage in the bedroom tonight,
Sure.
I don't give two about where they came from tonight. What I care about is a solution tonight. That doesn't mean that we don't need to solve the problem so my grandchildren don't get held hostage in their bedrooms 20 years from now. But when you say we don't need police because of developmental failures, that doesn't solve the problems that are occurring tonight, tomorrow night, the next night. Those things have to...
I truly, and I'm not being... I hear you. That is the fear that continues to drive us toward more policing.
No, that is the reality in which we live. That's not a fear.
Yes,
fear
is
the anxiety or anticipation of something that may happen. What I'm describing is something that is happening, and we have to have guardrails. We have to have someone to turn to. We have to have someone on the end of 911.
Well, let me get his name right first. Michael Denzel Smith. You saw the way he spelled Michael. But anyways, he goes on, he says that when he says we don't need police, what he's really saying is there has been so little investment in creating conditions under which police would not be necessary. I'm not sure where he comes from or where he thinks he's going with that, but there will never, and there has never been a place where conditions are such that police are not needed. No matter where you are, city, town, state, country, the police, in my opinion, will always be needed. He said people are creations of the society in which they live. If you're in a society that has such massive inequality, of course it's about inequality, and you are a society that is based on racial and gendered hierarchies, why does it always have to be race and gender? Why can't these people understand that when they talk about race, they're pushing racism. And when are they going to just admit that gender has nothing to do with anything other than there's only two genders? But he says, and you are a society that deprives people of the resources that they need to live, talking about housing, clean water, food. All these things are part of an equitable society that make people do whatever they have to do to survive. Well, that falls on political leaders, because if you live in a city, let's say California, for instance, San Francisco, Los Angeles, the crime rates are out of control, the homelessness is out of control, and yes, people are committing crimes because there are thousands and thousands of drug-addicted people living on the street that will do whatever they have to do to survive. But you heard Dr. Phil. We're living in now. So if I go home and someone is holding my wife hostage in the bedroom, it's now. And Dr. Phil said it, though they bleeped it out. He said, I don't give two shits. He's going to take care of the problem now, because that's reality. That's the world we live in. But Dr. Phil also went on to say that doesn't mean that we don't need to solve the problem so my grandchildren don't get held hostage in their bedrooms 20 years from now. But when you say we don't need the police because of developmental failures, that doesn't solve the problems that are occurring tonight, tomorrow night, or the next day, which is the absolute truth and absolute facts. What these defund the police people don't understand is we all want to live in a society crime-free. We all want to live in a place where everyone gets along and no one has a problem based on the color of your skin or the language you speak. But if these so-called activists keep talking about it, all they're doing is making it worse, because they're putting it out in the limelight. As far as I'm concerned, the activists, such as Mr. Smith, are the racist ones because he can't get what he wants. So he's blaming everything else for what he can't have, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand when people will realize that the more you talk about racial divide, you're going to have racial divide. People aren't just automatically racist. And I'm not saying there aren't racist people in this country, because we all know there are. And quite frankly, to me, that's disgusting. But we are never going to live in a society where crime is unheard of. We're never going to live in a society where everyone is peaceful. That's the way it is. And no matter how much funding is given to certain areas that need it, it's not going to change the fact that criminals are criminals. Drug-addicted people are going to commit crimes because they have no way out. And the political leaders that run these places do nothing to try to stop it, to try to fix it. So it's got nothing to do with race. Because if you go to any area of the city you live in, because I'm sure you know where there's homelessness and where there's a lot of it, you're going to see people from all walks of life, black, white, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, whatever. You're going to see families with kids living on the street. They don't want to be on the street, but sometimes they don't have a choice because the so-called leaders of these areas are not doing anything to fix the problem. And the more and more money they spend on other things, like, for instance, let's build a $3 million bathroom at some beach area in California because they need that. You know what that $3 million bathroom's going to turn into? A homeless condominium for people. That's it. All this Joe Biden funding, there's a small town in New Hampshire that was given $20 million. And this small town is riddled with drug addiction. But you know what the leaders are doing with the $20 million, I'm sorry? They're putting in a heated sidewalk. A heated sidewalk. Forget about the homelessness. Forget about the people that need help with their addiction. This little town needs a heated sidewalk. These are the politicians who don't care. They're the ones I speak of so often. Society as a whole has a problem because a lot of people think they deserve everything for free, while the rest of us go to work and still struggle. So you're always going to need the police, Mr. Smith, because there is no way, as far as I can see, that we will ever have a society free of crime. And it's not living in fear because, quite frankly, the criminals don't have fear. They're doing what they need to do to get the next fix, or go into someone's home and steal their property to bring it to the pawn shop to get money for whatever reasons. It might not be drugs. But we're not living in fear. We're living in reality. And the police are needed to take care of the everyday struggles that everyday Americans can't do themselves. And some people will say, well, if there's a problem in my house, I'll handle it. You're not handling nothing, because that's either going to do one of two things. The homeowner is going to get injured, or the homeowner is going to kill somebody, and then they'll get jammed up because they live in an area where guns are bad. You shouldn't own a firearm. That criminal needed something, so he had a right to break in your home. That's what Mr. Smith is saying, I think, and that's why he's against the police. He wants more money for all these programs, but he's barking up the wrong tree. Okay, he needs to go to the state houses where these political so-called leaders are and tell them about it, not Dr. Phil, because Dr. Phil shut him right down because he's right. This is the society we live in. It's always been this way, and it's only going to get worse if people like Mr. Smith continue to preach this nonsense, and they always have to throw in racial and gender. Has nothing to do with the color of your skin and nothing to do with your gender. It's society. That's how it is. And unfortunately, that's how it's always going to be. So we need more police on the street to protect people like Mr. Smith, who doesn't believe that anything's wrong other than they were raised in this area. So they were wronged somehow, some way by living where they live. Oh no, that's the way it is, and it's everywhere. Wherever you go, you're going to see it. You're going to see homelessness, drug addiction, crime, boarded up buildings. Because where's the money? When the politicians get the money, they don't do what's right, and they never will do what's right. And that's it. That's how I see it, and that's my opinion. If you haven't already liked this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell. You won't miss an episode. Share my videos with someone if you will. I'd appreciate that. I hope everybody's healthy and safe, and I'll see you real soon with something else. Have a great night.